I think that to be is to suffer. We all are put into situations where we experience pain from life. Either our expectations don't match the reality that plays out in our lives, or the human condition is such that pain is unescapable, suffering is unescapable. We can do things to alleviate the suffering as far as things that are unnecessary, but I believe each one of us is going to experience pain or suffering in one form or another, whether it's the loss of a loved one, just the pain of living in general. It causes, I think it can cause the human spirit to flourish in situations where, because we know that we're going to be confronted by this pain and suffering, so we can either take it and internalize it and benefit from it, or we can let it defeat us, which I believe is a common thread in each of us, as it has been for me in my past. To let pain overcome us and to allow it to dictate how we deal with life. Not how we deal with life, but to let it overcome us and shut ourselves off from feeling. I believe that this is where a disconnect comes into play. And once we withdraw and don't face this head on is where we're going to experience problems. We know that pain exists. We know that each of us is going to face this at one time or another in our lives. Now, not talking about the issues of poverty, of starvation, of iniquities playing out, leaving those out. Speaking in a personal sense, things like having a loved one die, things such as not getting what we want, being rejected, feeling isolated, alone, feeling depressed. Now, some of these might be conditions that need medication or need to be dealt with by a professional, but I believe that we can take the initiative to open our own gateways up and understand that we are the only ones stopping us from becoming ourself. We are the only obstacle that can take away what we want from this life. It's right in front of us. I feel lost right now. I feel like my life is in the balance, like any way that I go about this right now, I feel like my life just hinges upon this. I feel like I'm experiencing a depression where it's hard to break out of it. In a sense, like I'm in school right now, and before, as I told you, when I was experiencing addiction, I mean, there's so many, like, it's always, you want more from life, but you always believe that there's something better out there. When does this seeking, this inner peace, or seeking something better lead you to understand that everything that you could possibly want is already within you? I don't believe it's external stimuli contributing to how we're feeling right now. It's all within us. We are the ones that create our reality. We are the ones that are issuing this perspective to our consciousness. We're the ones that are responsible and ultimately have to be accountable for how we feel in life and how we can move on from here. Or maybe not even move on from here, how we can be in the moment. Maybe my videos are just boring. Do you click away when I'm in thought and pausing? Do you believe I should edit my videos? Or do you feel like seeing the human condition without any type of obstruction whatsoever is interesting? Like I said, I just feel lost right now. Like, looking at myself in the camera, it's like hard to recognize who I am and what I'm. See, I have a scar right here. I was in a car accident when I was 16. It stemmed from drug use. I almost died. I was in the hospital for I was in initially for a little over a week, I believe, and then I had to go back a couple weeks later, and I stayed for 21 days, I believe. And that was like the first, not even the first. It seems like I've had a series of epiphanies, but have failed to benefit from them in any way. Not in any way, but I've failed to utilize them for long-term realizations where I can actually apply the lessons that I've learned from them and take them and build on who I am and establish some type of inner peace so I can contribute to those around me in a positive fashion and really just be a hallmark of how tragedy can be turned into triumph. I think this is a repetitive pattern. I think we each have to be aware and recognize the themes prevalent in our life. If we fail to do so, I believe history is going to repeat itself. It's inevitable. If we don't establish clarity on what we're doing, if we live in a sense of delusion, if the things that we're espousing or the things that we're doing don't match what we believe we should be doing or what we are doing, I believe there's a disconnect in how we view ourselves. And I think that everyone has a distorted self-image to some degree. Why? Why don't we see things? Why don't we perceive the nature of things how they are? Is everything just a construct of the mind? Is there an actual reality? And if so, whose reality is real? Whose views, whose ideologies and beliefs are really the way that the world works and the way that the world is? And why are there so many contrasting worldviews if we all came from the same manifestation? How do you believe? I'd like to hear everybody's opinion on if you, no matter what your train of thought is or why you think we are here. Why do you think we were created? What is our purpose? I believe I've struggled with this question all my life, more so in recent years as the dope has subsided. Not necessarily that either. I think that there's a spiritual nature that can be afforded to you by taking part in substances at all. When I took part in a lot of things, I know I'm being vague. When I abused certain things, well, it didn't start out as abuse either. It started out as for recreational purposes, and it was more just to feel good. But through that process of trying to make myself feel good, I actually attained higher levels of consciousness, and I failed to apply that outside of the substances, which I've already gotten into in an earlier video. But I believe it's such a prevalent force in my life that I just seek to feel good. Why do I need to feel good? Why can't I just feel? And I think that I wanted to feel so good. I wanted to feel good for so long that if I wasn't feeling good, I'd block out the emotion, which I think now has stemmed to a point where I've rejected emotion so much if it wasn't to make myself feel good, or if it wasn't allowing me to experience some feeling of euphoria, I just shut it out. And now it's gotten to a point where it's built off of that and become an existence where I just shelter any emotion or reject feeling any emotion. And it's gotten to a point where it's almost like I'm numb. I'm almost numb to human emotion, and that's a disconnect. You know, I've seen that as I'm looking at myself through this other perspective that I always say we need to, or we should, or we have to. I think that's just a projection of what I believe I need to do. So where do I go from here? Can I take all the lessons that I've learned and utilize them and apply them to life now? Will I succeed? Will I ever gain a true understanding of who I am? And on a larger scale, who we are and what we are doing on earth, and what is our destiny? What is our purpose? How are we going to attain it? Right now, I don't know.